So I think there is no question. We can continue.
We can continue. Okay, that is great. So I think we looked at Akwamu, and from there we proceeded to Fante. I think we exhausted Fante. We finished Fante, where we were talking about the phases of their expansion. I think we did that one for Akwamu, and then we came to Fante, and then we touched on this, and we also elaborated on why the disunity among them. And that's why the expansion came to a halt because of deep-seated divisions among the Fante. And I think I threw more light on that. So we shall move on to look at Asante. To look at Asante. So let me share I've shared it, but let me project it. So now Asante, very important in the history of Ghana. So if you look at Asante, one would say that had it not been because of the the British, no Europeans, they came here, so we had many European nations that came to operate in the coast. But you can say that had not been because of the superior weapons that the British had in particular, Ghana, the country that we are in, wouldn't be a republic as we speak. It will be a monarchical state like Great Britain or England. Yeah, because the Asante were powerful. And by the commencement of the 20th century, by the commencement of the 19th, let me say 19th century, by the beginning of the 19th century, Asante had subjugated almost all the states. Yeah, almost all the, except the Fante, who were just around the area of Senyabreku down to Cape Coast there. But yeah, so that's the only place that they live a sort of independent life. But Asante were so powerful to the extent that they expanded their jurisdiction. When I say their jurisdiction, I'm talking about their sway or area of influence where they had their power to as far as Dagomba and Gunja in the north, Ghana Dangui, Ghana, even they defeated the Ghana, and even, yeah, as far as the Ewe principalities and many people were all under Asante at the peak of his glory. If you hear some of the rulers, I think we'll get there, and especially Opokuwara, the first, and Osebonsu, these were very good rulers. They were very good rulers. Yeah. Hello. If I show me a class online, not for the what? Yeah. So Asante was lucky to have very good rulers. I think we'll get there. But let us say that in the beginning, God created the earth and the drama. Drum history is very important. Those of you have read something about oral tradition and you know aspects of oral tradition. And so the Molda Gwani. Do you have someone from the north among us? Do you have someone from the north? Yes. Hello. Hello.
Hi,
Can you
Sata.
please hear me? Yeah, do you
Now
have
we can
someone
hear
from the
you
north?
loud and clear.
Yeah, Unu, where do you come from?
We may help.
Unu.
Nunu. Is it Nunu Abi? This Abi will help us. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Abby, Unu, where do you come from?
doctor.
Where do you come from?
Doctor, I come from Nkranza in the Bunist.
In the East. Can we get
Yes, but
someone who can we get someone who comes from the north? Want to know more? Those of you who have witnessed the Damba Festival of the Modaguel, if you can get someone from the north to throw more light on that for us, I'll be very grateful.
for now, I can't. But yes, I don't know anyone who is from
But
there.
you have you witnessed the Damba Festival before?
No, no, say.
Okay, so yeah. And who has also watched documentary on the Damba Festival? Mr. Patrick, are you conversant with that festival? Have you witnessed it before?
No, sir. But from the narrative and readings, I got to know that they have a state drum. That anytime that conduct the festival, it is played to remind them where they migrated from. That they migrated from east of Lake Chad in the Niger Bend and came to Zamfara in Nigeria, and then gradually they, through the leader to Isaac, the Red Hunter, they were able to land in Ghana, Pusika, and then through able leadership and other organizational behavior of the leader, they were able to anchor their hold in the northern region. So that is what I know about these people.
Okay, so now thank you very much, Mr. Patikadu, for the insights you have provided. Yeah, so as you rightly said, so drum history is an aspect of oral tradition and it falls under the phased test type. So drum music, so the phased test type of oral tradition. This one, it doesn't change. And anytime they beat, they beat the drum, it rekindles their migration from, as he was saying, it gives us, so if you understand the language of the drum, then you know that they will be talking about, as he was saying, an area east of Lake Chad and where the direction that they took before they reached Pusiga in northern Ghana. So drum history, and these are very important things that we dwell on when we are reconstructing the history of Africa, and for that matter, West Africa, and of course Ghana. Yeah, so we have that one there. Now, I'm just drawing from that to say that God created the earth and the drama. The drama was discovered by Utiakinten. Utiakinten ruled Asante in the 13th century, and so the Asante felt that their social heritage is distinctive. That is one of the things that people will say about the Asante. Yeah, they feel so proud and they feel that, you see, that as a human being, you need to cherish your own heritage, your culture, your way of life. So if you look down upon yourself, like some people, you ask them, where do you come from? And the person even feels, some people will feel shy to say that I'm this or that, like I'm an Asante or I'm a Kwapim or a Kwawu or anyway the I can. So let's put that at that can. So if you ask me where's your ethnic background, where do you come from? Yeah, so you should feel free. If you were Kwawu, say I am from Kwawu. If you are from Akwapim, say it with what? Yeah, kind of feel that that's where you come from, that's where your ancestors. So your heritage is very distinctive, and so the Asante, of course, one of the groups that they feel, yeah. So now the impression that the Akan the Asante are distinctive has in fact been inadvertently perpetuated by anthropologists in their study of the various communities in Ghana. And I've already walked you through the fact that by the commencement of the 19th century, that by 1800, Asante were the superpowers, so to speak. In short, you see, they had, of course, conquered many states and had made them vassal states, and they were all under Asante. Of course, don't forget that even the only people that they had not conquered, 1807, the 1805-1807 war, that is the Asante-Fante War. In 1807, the Asante defeated the Fante, and Fante became a vassal state of Asante by 1807. And Governor Touraine of the British accepted or acknowledged Asante's sovereignty over the Fante, and then began paying the ground rent of the fort, of the Animabo Fort and Cape Coast Castle to the Asante, and not the kings of Cape Coast or Fante. So that will give an idea. So they were powerful military and so and so forth. So now that's going to give you an idea that the impression that the Asante are distinctive has in fact been inadvertently perpetuated by anthropologists in their study of the various communities in Ghana. When studying the Akan ethnic group, even when they're looking at Akan as a major ethnic group, and they are almost about 50%, so say 45 or 47. If you look at the current, the 2022 population and housing census that conducted, will know more about the Asante. And they are kind. And in fact, to be let me be more general. They are kind. And about 45 or 40, more than 45% of the entire population of Ghana. Now, when studying the Akan ethnic group, which is the Asante subgroup, that is invariably considered for the study. So even anthropologists, when they are studying about the Akan, they normally select Asante as a case study as a window to look at the Akan in general. And so that gives an idea about the fact that the Asante are distinct group. I will say Asante are. I will not say is. No, I've told you that I use them in the plural sense, and I won't say Asantes before I will say are. So so use them. It is the Asante subgroup that, so we use them and they are all accepted. So don't mind, don't say that when I say the Ewe are or the Asante are, or I use them, they are all accepted. So now one only needs to compare the sheer number of such studies on the Asante subgroup of the Akan. This is perhaps understandable, considering the importance or the important role the Asante played in Ghana's history since the 18th century. And as I was talking about, we see, if you look at, because as I was saying, by the beginning of the 19th century, Asante had conquered almost all the states. And the first decade of the 19th century, that's 1805-7, they also conquered the Fante and made Fante a vassalage or a settler state of Asante. Now, by this time, had not been the British who were here, and the war, and it would change hands. The war would change hands from Asante and the states in Ghana to Anglo Asante and the British. So if you realize, if you could now see that in 1823-24, that is the Nsamanko War was fought, or battle was fought between the Asante and the British. Then in the 1826, the Akatamanso Oduduwa War also fought, and several wars were fought, and eventually the almighty 1874 war, that is the Sovereignty War, in which the British defeated the Asante and burnt Kumasi into ashes. So that will give an idea. Even that, Asante were trying to regain its strength and to come back to face the British again when William Maxwell got Asante here at the time. Admiral Pepper the First arrested and exiled him and about 50 others in the royal palace. So what we get there in the course of our studies. And so that will tell you, had not been because of the British factor in Ghana's history, then Ghana would have been a monarchical state ruled by the Asante. Like when you go to Britain, you have the queens, and now we also, and the kings there. Now, an example is the work of Roatry. So the website to whose painstaking effort, in fact, are much of our knowledge of Asante culture and the works of Buzia. Now, Buzia makes the following statement: Asante chiefship is based on lineage system. Asante succession to properties as well as political offices are handed down in the matrilineal line. So it passes on, in that line from uncle to nephew, or from mother to daughter. So and they will tell you the reason. So there are some people who are here, or there are kind people who are here. I will ask you the reason why you practice the matrilineal system, and those who also have the patrilineal system, be thinking about why so. Now, so this year in Sehen is there something amazing for such a situation, a royal does not install or install a chief. Now, every chief belongs to one of the 7 major clans. So the Adansi city states were built up by the clan of Adansi Manso. Take note, the Bretu by Ayase, Bono Manso by Aguna, Akomu by Biana, and Asante by the Oyoko. So the Oyoko were the founding clan. Now, let's look at factors for the rise of Asante. What factors motivated or fueled the rise of Asante to preeminent position? Asante at its peak had attained the position of an empire. So people say that Asante. So when I'm talking about the civilized societies, Asante is important, and we are been pushing that Asante should be studied in the other universities in Ghana. Yeah, so because we are talking about civilizations, and we look at Western Sudan, and we look at the Mali Songhai, Asian Ghana, Mali Songhai, and even look at the Hausa states and Kanimbon. Asante was also an enviable empire that became a civilization. Need to look at it and their way of life. So as I was saying, now Asante at its peak had attained the position of an empire, made up of almost all the states from Gonja and Dagomba to the north, Nzema, Wasa, and Aruin to the west, and the Ga Kingdom and some of the Arab principalities to the east. Now, Asante attained this through conquest and diplomatic negotiations. So, through what they were very powerful, and they had the men because they had many vassal states who could envisage the strength of their army. And they were also rich because they had gold producing districts in their areas, so that the gold made them so rich that they exchanged, they traded with the Europeans. Now, except for the Fante Confederation to the south, which was not incorporated into the Asante Empire by 1800, and 1800 is the commencement of the 19th century. The Fante states stretch from the mouth of the Pra River to the border of the Ga Kingdom, and of course, this gives a phenomenal expansion of the Asante. So the next 50 years were used to consolidate and develop the machinery for an effective administration. If you look at after Osetutu, in fact, if you look at the humble beginnings of the kingdom, starting from Obriyeboa, Obriyeboa was not the first, but then I think it is him that we can now start making concrete. Yeah. So from Obriyeboa, then Osetutu the first, and after Osetutu, you saw the work of Opukwa the first, and so he was a great warrior, and how he contributed in the expansion of Asante. Now, before we delve into that, let's look at the nature of the Asante Empire itself and know much about that. Now, Asante consisted of two parts. So there were two parts of Asante. We had the Metropolitan Asante or the Asante Confederacy one. So we have Metropolitan, that is the Asante proper. Metropolitan Asante or the Asante Confederacy. And you also had the Provincial Asante. Now, the Metropolitan Asante, comprising the core of the empire, consisted of a number of states and city-states founded within a radius of about 30 miles or so of modern Kumasi. Now, these states were also divided into two groups. So that's Metropolitan Asante or the Confederacy was also split or divided into two groups. We had the Oyoko groups of states made up of Jabin, Kokofu, Kumasi, Bekwai, and Insuta. And we also had the non-Oyoko group of states, and there were many. So let's cite a few examples. We had Mampong, Danyase, Offense, Juswa Dance. You can just talk and talk. There are many. Now, let me dwell on the provincial, let me touch on the provincial Asante as well. The provincial Asante was made up of states which were mainly conquered to the north and south of Metropolitan Asante. So we're talking about the vassal states. The states that Asante conquered, all of them, and made them vassal states. And they included Achem, Kwaru, Gonja, Dagomba, Ga, Denchra, and Zema, Wasa. You can talk and talk. There were many. And I will say, if you can talk about all, let me just forget. Time will be too long. Now, having seen the two main parts, so the proper Asante, that's the Metropolitan or the Asante Confederacy, and then the provincial part, also looking at the conquered states or the vassal states of Asante. So all these two parts came together to form Asante. And that will tell you how strong that the Asante were at this time. Now, so let's look at factors for the rise of Asante briefly. What were the factors responsible for the in the end of semester exam that you shall write? If I ask you to explain at least 4 factors responsible for the rise of Asante, what will you be saying? What will you discuss? What will you talk about? So one will be formation of the Asante Confederacy or the Metropolitan Asante. And this was the first and foremost due to the establishment of the non-Oyoko states. So so that is it. Within the relatively small area of the Ofin and Pra Basin, most of these states were established to harness the gold and coal resources of the region. Again, it was to control the trade routes to Hausa land and journey to Mbutu area. Concentrated as they were in such a limited part of the country, Most of the states were rather small and could therefore be readily absorbed together, and this was precisely the relationship that existed among the Oyoko states. Traditions indicate that the founders of the Oyoko group of states were all related to one another. Yes, so they were related. So all of them were Oyoko. Yeah, group. So Oyoko group. So they were all related. Now, so let's look at them. Kumasi, you should be Kwaman, and then change to Kumasi. Kumasi, Draben, and Bekwai were regarded as brothers, with Kumasi as their senior, while the founder of Kokofu was and is still regarded as the maternal uncle of Bekwai and Draben. They migrated together from the region of Asante Manso to the area where the Oyoko was formed during the second half of the 17th century. Now, through both diplomacy and wars, and even psychology, they were able to create the Oyoko state. So, yeah, through diplomacy, and especially during the time of Osei the First, who had a constitutional advisor, Okonfa-Nochi. So these people were smart. They thought thinking is very good, and thinking rules the world. So you see, if you look at how they were able to elevate Kumasi seats to become, to become Asantehene, because all of them were at par, the Oyuku group of states. So like Kumasi, Jaben, Bekwai, Kokofu, and Suta, they were the same. So how come could they have Kumasi becoming higher than the others? So the golden stool that Okonfa-Nochi and Osei planned, and so forth. And sometimes when we ask them, where did the golden stool come from? They say it came from the sky. I say, which part of the sky was it? And this is a debate. It's not a debate anyway, but I'm telling you that it never came from any part of the sky. You know, people think that, oh, Okonfa-Nochi performed some this, and it came from the sky. It was coming, and people will say that even smoke, or it came attendant smoke and all that. No, it did not come from the sky, as people think, but now it's sudden creation, because it wasn't there. It wasn't there. All the Oyuku groups were at par. They were borders. Then through psychology, and yeah, so they use religion. Let me be specific and give you the details here. They used religion to say, and that's what they did, that. So they planned and created that office. So it was a sudden creation, and they elevated the occupant of that stool to be higher than the fellow Oyuku groups. And so the office, or it was a sudden creation, and as if it had dropped from the sky, and as if it had dropped from the sky, the office of Asantehene, and for that matter, the occupant of the golden stool. Good. Now, be that as it may, also have tradition. That will also give another version, but I think that is giving you for now. Now, so as I said, so cooperation together with the diplomatists, those are the first two Oyoko kings. And the first two Oyoko kings I'm talking about, particularly I'm interested here in I would say I'll go for I'll say to the first, and Opoku, but I can also talk about the work of Obriabua. They were able to unite the states into a hegemony. The work of forging their union of a confederacy by these Oyuku rulers was facilitated by the harsh and tyrannical rule of the kings of the Intra. Now, so that is one of the causes or reasons for the rise, of Asante, the tyrannical rule of the Intra that made it possible. And these states were anxious to throw off that yoke, since people want freedom and don't want to be under somebody to impose harsh terms, conditions on you, ask you to pay so much, and still will be demanding more and will not be happy, using your men to fight, and for them to be dying, and so on and so forth. You wish that you have your freedom. So they were tyrannical, especially during the time of Intimidatory, and the demand that he made to the infant Asante, that means that was the last straw that put the camel's back. Anyway, it was partly by preying on the fears of danger that Ossetutu and his Oyoko brothers, helped by Okonfa-Noche, who was their constitutional advisor, succeeded in persuading most of the Oyoko states to come together to endow this union with perpetual binding force and spiritual symbol of unity. That is also another reason, symbol of unity, the golden stool. So united we stand, and divided we fall. So that is the golden stool as a symbol. And that's so that, oh, all the souls are enshrined in this stool, and that is need to protect it. So that was also one of the things that did the trick. So Citizen Kofonachi created the golden stool of Asante, which to this day has remained an object of reverence among the people of Asante. And according to oral tradition, Okonfa-Noche is said to have brought down the golden stool from the sky in a dark crowd amidst ramblings. The priest is said to have announced to the assembly that the stool embodied the soul and unity of Asante. The golden stool was never to be lost, and the kinship group of Ossetu was forever to be recognized as the head of Asante Union, and all previous symbols of political authority were to be buried. Now, according to Kufidakwa, the account of the mystical origin of the golden stool and of its function as a symbol of soul and unity of the Asante Union is something to endow the Asante Union with a perpetual binding force and spiritual symbol of unity. Adubua imposes that it is by no means peculiar or indeed original to the Asante Union. Now, of course, it is physically impossible for a stool to drop from the sky. I think I've given you the analysis, and you have the oral tradition version of it that, oh, it came from the sky, and Okonfa-Noche conjured it from the sky, and so on and so forth. But and we are doing analysis. I've said that nowadays we have moved away from mere narration or chronicling of events to an analysis. Here we do deeper analysis. So, of course, as I'm saying, it is impossible, physically impossible, for a stool to drop from the sky. What is more likely is that this story is a way, the story of saying that the golden stool dropped from the sky is a way of saying that no golden stool or supreme kingship had existed before, so that its sudden establishment or creation was as if it had dropped from the sky. The point is that Ossetu and Okonfa-Noche had thought of a religious way to express the lengths of the assembled sets. So they used religion. Yeah. Now the stool authorized in religious language the future leadership of Kumasi's paramount chief at the Asante states, and it represented a close national unity in all Asante, incorporating people of different class into one political unity. And so they were together, they were well united, and they fought for a common purpose. Then people then believed in the ever-eminent presence of the ancestor who are represented in the lineage stools. So the common kinship of all Asante was that represented in the golden stool, whose occupant was a divinely authorized king. So it was a sacred king, a sacred personage held in by taboos and rules designed to maintain his closeness with the royal ancestors and with their gods. Thus, were religious ideas used to maintain and validate the political relationship between the states, and so was revered and seen as sacred, and his authority was not supposed to be challenged. Now, in fact, the story about the golden stool is a very important example of the way in which the rulers used religion to buttress their authority. Another factor for the rise of Asante was the rapid development of the Atlantic trade. The Atlantic trade that developed. Now, this will be remembered in the annals of the Akan history. The pre-Asante Union states were eager to share in the lucrative profits that could be obtained from overseas trade in slaves and other goods. However, states that controlled access to European trading ports like Fante and Nekomu deprived the pre-Asante states of direct access to the coastal ports, and so mutual cooperation was the only way by which they could overcome the Fante, Nekomu, and danger. So that was one of the things. And in order for them to be able to have access, direct access to the Europeans and to trade with them and derive immense benefit from the Atlantic trade. Now, dangerous oppressive rule. Oral tradition and reports of the European confirm that pre-Asante Union states in this region were reduced to the state of dangerous tributary. So at the time that after the defeat of Adanse in 1660, Danger had many vassal states, including Asante. Asante was at the time a vassal state of Danger. Danger treated her vassal states harshly and as slaves. The way Danger handled the vassal states was so poor, and they suffered under the hands of Danger. But Danger's rulers were not only hated for their oppression, there was also the fact that they prevented these states from reaching down to the coast. So the pre-Asante Union state developed what one scholar called a common hatred for Danger. So all of them developed a common hatred for Danger. And so were anxious to throw off her heavy load if they could find the right leader. And it was at this moment in time, about 1670, that Obi stepped in. So about this time, that Osetu to the first. Now the liberator was Osetu to the first, then followed by Opokuwa the first. There was also diplomatic skills of the rulers of Asante. Able leadership, also one of the important reasons for the rise of Asante. We are always talking about able leaders. So if you're not able leader, you are not astute leader of vision and foresight, the people will suffer. Those under you, they will suffer. So we always think about, so the head, human being, like the head is very important. So if you are choosing a leader, please think twice, because leadership is very good. And if you happen to get a good leader, the people enjoy. But at the same time, if you get a very bad leader, the people will suffer. If you look at states that had bad or wicked leaders, you see that their people suffered. But those who had good leaders, astute ones, you can talk about how the people enjoy. Now, let's look at achievement of Osetu to the first briefly. So Osetu to the first, as I've said, did a lot for Asante. One of the things that he did was that he contributed immensely to the emergence of the Asante Empire in 5 ways. So look at that. His constitutional advisor was Okonfa-Notche. And so one of the two welded the Union of States into a purposeful entity by creating a symbol of their unity, the golden stool that united the Asante. It was Osetu who did that under his watch. So he united or unified the people through the golden stool. And the golden stool is always written with capital G, capital S, because it's a proper noun, golden stool. So Osetu and Okonfa-Notche introduced a constitution for the Asante Union. They also, apart from this, they came out a set of laws that regulated the behavior or the conduct of the people of Asante. And so the constitution, which was modeled on existing account practices, the head of the union, according to the constitution, was Asantehene, or the paramount chief of Kumasi State. The Asantehene ruled with the advice of the Confederacy Council, and this council was made up of all the paramount chiefs of the states. All the heads of state, as Amahene, had to seek the Asantehene's recognition by swearing the oath of allegiance to him. Again, the Amahene also had to give up their right of declaring war at will upon a member of the union, and he had to recognize the rights of Asantehene to impose national levies in times of crisis. Each Omahene was to attend the annual Ojura festival or cleansing ceremony, which, as a rite for the dead, cleanses the nation from defilement and purifies all ancestral shrines, as well as all dedicated to the national gods. Whatever be the case, the constitution of the Asante is significant for the way in which the individual states and their rulers were, in principle at least, stripped of powers which could result in a rebellion being organized against the Asante. Another thing that he did was making Kumasi the home of the Yoko unit. That's the capital seat or the headquarters. It was also to the first who did that. The undisputed political, commercial, and cultural center of Asante land. Power lay in Kumasi. So this basic fact of life that Kumasi had become the capital of the Asante was reflected in the command to all Amahin to attend the National Ogira Festival there. And it was held in Kumasi. All the heads of Asante had to attend it. Again, Osetutu and Konfanochi introduced a form of military organization which was supposed to prove very successful. It seems that Asante military organization was borrowed from the Akwamu. Don't forget that Osetutu once went to the court of the Akwamu. He was first at the court of the Inchira. He did something there and he was he ran away to Akwamu. It was Akwamu that he came across his friend Konfanoshi. Anyway, so then we say that it had the van, the rear, right, and left wings. Again, he also waged wars. In other words, he expanded Asante. So wars of expansion or expedition, waging merciless, brilliant warfare on his enemies. His main aim for involving himself in the warfare was to gain control over north-south trade routes. To do this, he had to defeat mighty danger who stood in the way of Asante, sharing in profitable revenues from tolls and custom levies, and that made it enviable and brought competition. So his first important campaign was conducted against some neighboring states of Asante. So now Tafo and Amakum. Between 1699 and 1701, also to reduce mighty danger and allies to tributaries. In other words, they became a vassal state. He defeated them and they became a vassal state of Asante. I think these are some of the things that Osetutu did for Asante. I'll end here. Opukwal also did a lot, but I think I decided to just take you through, because of time, take you through that of Osetutu the first, so I get to know. Opukwal did very well. He took over. In fact, Osetutu died in 1717. Now there was an expedition with the Acham. And as a king, he was a very good, kings are commander-in-chief of the army. So he was following, his men in the war, in the battlefield. The Acham got the hint and they laid ambush on the road. So when Osetutu got to the Pra River, and those people who laid the ambush shot him. And one account says that he fell into the Pra River and they couldn't retrieve the body. Another account also says that they were able to cut off his head and push the rest of the body into the river. But as we speak, we don't know where the head of Osetutu the first is. We don't know. Maybe you people are coming to do more research to uncover where we can get it, but we don't have it. I think so. That is that on Asante. Questions?
Sir, Tete Maswell hand is up.
Okay, so Mr. Maswell, can you go on with your question, please? Proceed. Yeah, Mr. Maswell, can you go on?
Tete was raising the hand, but I don't know how he went off.
Okay, so
Tete.
if it's not with us, anyone who has a question can still go ahead and ask.
Okay, sir. It has become public outpouring, especially from the other chief, who is alleging that the golden stool was a wedded thing. It wasn't anything that conjured by the fetish priest, as it may be. And if you look at the pictures, you might support what he's saying. That it may be that just as you said that there was smoke, and maybe through that diplomacy and psychological way, they brought it just to unite the people and then fortify the kingdom so that the Ashanti kingdom will live forever. What do you have to say, sir?
As for these issues, what we do is that we interrogate the facts. As for us, and we know that you see that there are, as a historian, you know there are several sources that are available that we get data or information from to reconstruct our history or to look at the past. One of them is oral tradition or oral history through interviews. And so we have one version of the golden stool from the oral tradition of the Asante. And that one says that Okomfonoche conjured the golden stool from the sky. It came from the sky, amidst maybe smoke and ramblings or whatever. So that is what their tradition says. Like we have people who tell you that according to the tradition, Okomfonoche, for example, did not die. He said he was going to bring something, and went, and nobody should cry. I don't want to go there anyway, but Okomfonoche died. So that is the way of saying things, but we know anyway. But then the most important thing that I want to chip in here is that so we have that one there. That is several sources. We have others from documented sources and others, and also do critical review and analysis. These are all some of the methods and sources. Anyway, so we are now trying to do analysis of that whole thing that they are saying that it came from the sky to mean that it was a sudden creation. But whatever be the case, the office of Asante came to stay and has remained up to date. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question, please? Hello. Yeah. Any other question, please?
I don't think so. Silence means consent. So if we can draw the curtains.
Okay, so I think that then maybe today we shall end here. God willing, Tuesday we will meet in the evening. I don't know whether 5:30 will be okay for you or 5.
5, so that by
5
5:30 we'll be on board.
You said
5 by 5:30 we'll be on board.
okay, so 5. So take note, God willing, on Tuesday at 5, we shall meet and look at post independence Ghana. And
Okay.
so yeah. May I have an idea about when you are writing your first quiz?
We haven't gotten the timetable yet.
Okay.
Even the registration, we haven't proven. They said that they are doing something around the clock to make sure that the portal is open for. So we are looking forward that they will bring us feedback.
Okay, that's great. So on that note, we end the class here. I wish you all the best and enjoy the rest of the day, of the evening. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.